What's up, YouTube? Morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, good night, wherever you're at in the world watching this. Yes, another blessed day. Another blessed day. Driving to work. I was thinking about that. I'm like, why do we all drive to work? Get up and drive to work and go do our thing. I know we got to make money, right? And you got to survive. So that's probably a big part of it. But it's like, could we get away with not going to work? What if everybody just woke up and was like, nah, I'm not going to work today, or for the rest of the month? Nobody went to work. I think that the world would just go into absolute chaos, right? So there's a balance, there's a balance with how we gotta operate. Gotta show up, man. I've gotta show up. I'm just saying, some people can work remotely, right? Some people work remotely. They can do that and be effective working remotely, but there's still a lot of jobs that are going to require a human being to physically be there. Well, physically, mentally, and emotionally be there, right? Spiritually be there. But, for the sake of this example, physically be there at that job, right? Be there in the trenches, face to face, belly to belly, working with other people physically there, and making it happen. That's just the way the world has worked. Now with technology, things have evolved, but there's still a lot of jobs that you just can't get around. You can't do Zooms to get the jobs done, right? Like if you're in construction, or you're carpentry, or electrician, or plumber, or anything like that, it's like you can't be like, hey, I'm just gonna Zoom call and you're gonna do the work. You know what I mean? If look at with somebody who's not a certified electrician, certified plumber, whatever it is, a doctor, right? It's like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna Zoom in. I'll just tell you how to cut them open and do the surgery, right? You know what I mean? You can't phone that one in, right? You can't Zoom call that one in. Just something I thought about, and it's like, even if you do work remotely, I can see the advantage, you're not leaving the house, right? You're not spending money on gas. You're not taking time to get to work, driving to work. Well, some companies do, but most companies will not pay you to drive to work. It's just not how it works. Some companies do, right? So you got to eat that time. That's why I make these videos, because I'm in the vehicle, I'm going to work, I'm not getting paid for this, I'm not really doing much else, so I thought, why not make videos? Who knows, right? YouTube is only the second biggest website or platform on the planet, next to Google, who owns YouTube. So I just thought, what the heck, why not? Go for it. And so that's how these were created, inspired for creation. And another thing that I kind of wanted to lean in on was driving. I actually do like driving. I remember when I got my permit when I was 15 and a half, maybe sooner than that. Like I got it at the cusp. As soon as I could drive, I was driving legally. Maybe even a little illegally. Possibly. You know what word I'm going for. But I'm pretty sure I was legit. When I had my permit, I always had somebody in the passenger seat. Yeah, I had someone in the passenger seat, teaching me how to drive. And as soon as I got to 16, boom, full license, driving, going for it. Fortunate enough to have a vehicle that my parents obviously provided, because I didn't have, a couple thousand. I think it was like a couple grand. They didn't get. What was I driving? I can't even know. I think it was a BMW. You know that? Yeah, because I had two older brothers, right? One younger brother, and they already had vehicles, right? So, but I ended up getting it. My dad, he was a carpreneur. You know what I mean? I think he's gotten. He's almost had 100 different vehicles in his life, and he has all of them documented in his head too. Nonetheless, maybe he put it down on a paper or something, but he's able to just go back and capture all the vehicles he's owned. He's always loved vehicles, and I get it. I have a love for vehicles too. But it was like a BMW from the 90s, maybe early 90s, possibly it was an 89 BMW. And you know what? It was really nice. I'm not gonna lie. I think I was pretty spoiled to have a BMW. Drove real well. It was, I know one of them was an automatic, another one was a standard. I personally prefer standard. I love standard. I mean, the newer cars nowadays have surpassed standard vehicles in just across the board, right? I mean, automatic, transmissions they're so massively improved from what they once were that it makes it actually worth it to just get an automatic, especially out here in Hawaii. When you're stuck in traffic and you got to be, clutch pedal, changing gears, clutch pedal, and all that stuff. It could be a little tedious for some, but for me, I just really enjoy it. I've always liked it because, I had a little hard time learning it. I wasn't like out the gate getting it down. I was definitely rocking and rolling the vehicle, and it wasn't getting that. It's all about that clutch pedal, though, man. It's just once you dial in on the finesse of the clutch pedal, and knowing where it's going to grab, where it's going to release and all that stuff. The rest is all pretty straightforward, switching gears is just, no problem. It's actually probably why I drive with my left hand on the steering wheel, because I was, so used to driving with standard where I was always having to put my right hand, boom, to switch gears, you know what I mean? So even though I'm right-handed, I drive with my left just because I was, conditioned to do that over the years. So just makes sense. Yep. But yeah, I miss driving a standard vehicle. I haven't done it for quite some time. But like riding a bike, I'm sure that if I jump back into this scenario, I would be able to do it rather quickly. And I think I have, actually. I think I drove somebody else's vehicle, which is a standard, a little while back, and no problem. And then it was really enjoyable to do it. So, I guess what I want to tap into right now, I don't want to get too lengthy with this video, but a lesson that I've kind of gleaned from this is when I was a kid, I think most of us, probably all of us, anybody who was a kid watching this video, which is all of you, I feel like the tenacity we had when we're younger, for me, I know that it's scaled back some. I know that, from when I was young, I was like, I could do anything, I could take on anything, I could learn anything, I want to learn this, I want to do that, I want to, accomplish this. And, there's so many things that I didn't even hesitate to think about how hard it was. It wasn't a matter of how hard it was how badly I wanted to do it. You know what I mean? And then as I think, ultimately, when you become an adult, right? You become an adult. And you get into the adult day-to-day, you got bills, you got responsibilities stacking up, you get kids of your own, your priorities shift, right? Your time that you once had to be able to go out and make mistakes and not worry about making the mistakes because you didn't have bills to pay, you didn't have a job to go to, right? You're just going to school and you're just doing whatever you felt like doing, whatever you like doing at the time. It definitely changes things quite a bit. And that same tenacity, I think, I know it's we say, oh, well, because of those factors, you can't do it anymore. I think that we still have to have that mindset, that approach, that we can still go and do things and push ourselves to learn new things as you get older, right? And I'm not saying everybody has this restriction. Some people have the complete opposite. They're like, yeah, I could do anything at this age. They have, basically completely shafted that whole idea of, well, I'm getting older and, I can't do as many things as I used to. Most of that is crap. I'm not saying, if you're like in your 50s or 60s and you're like, I want to go join the NFL, I want to be in the NBA. I don't know, at 50 or 60, that'd be a real long shot, right? Is it impossible? I don't know if it's impossible. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. I'd have to look that up. Probably very, very unlikely that would happen. But nonetheless, you know what I mean? Like, if you believe it, that's the first step. Once you believe something, then you have the ability to move forward and go after it. But if you can't just tell ourselves once and let it ride, right? You have to continually build upon that, and then you gotta also prove it to yourself too, right? You can say it all you want, and that's good, especially if you continue to say it. But if you're not taking actions and you're not doing the things that are going to prove that you can indeed do something, you know, it's going to be a difficult time, right? To really make those two things happen in alignment, you know, without doing one or the other. So anyway, I'm gonna cut it off now because these videos are going a little longer than I'd like them to. But it's important to factor in those things. So don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see you on the next video. Aloha.